Hey everybody, welcome back to Movie Hell. This is Ryan, and I'm joined as always by Joe. This time, we are coming to you with an unscheduled episode. We decided to talk about Loki. It's been pretty big, in my opinion, unexpectedly good. So I thought we should kind of interrupt our normal schedule and throw one out about it. And the reason, or a partial reason I wanted to do this, was because it relates to the rant we put out the other day for you. But I wonder, do you want to start with any thoughts? Just surface level?
Sure. I will say what I noticed about Loki so far, out of the 3 different programs, the Marvel Universe programs that have come out on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and it's probably worthwhile to say we're recording this on June 26th.
Out of the 3 of them that there have been, the first episode of Loki was the most intriguing out of all of the first episodes of any of them. Out of the things that happened, I was the most curious about, where is this going to go? Because, I mean, they really brought in some, I have to assume, some heavy comic book, kind of heavy hitters. We're talking like the highest of the high forms of intelligence and control over the universe. Like, I know Loki and Asgard, and they're the gods and whatnot, but they're only gods to humans. They're not like controlling time and space. So they're not like that level of God. They're just God because they, how did Loki put it in the first Thor movie? You just come down and shoot some lightning around for these primitive humans and they worship you like a god. See, and even said that, like a god. Because they're not, he refers to himself several times throughout the MCU as a god. They're really not. They're just Asgardians. They're just their own race. That's it. They're not in control. They don't create matter. Like, as we think of God, God has created the universe in 7 days or 6 days. 7th day he rested, the whole thing. If that's the particular, that's how I was raised. But in however, everybody believes in all that. But that's what we think of when we think of God. God said, you know what, there was nothing, and he touched the universe, Big Bang. However you want to look at it, like, that's God. These are just creatures. They're just other creatures in the universe. And so in dealing with what goes on in the first episode of Loki, it's kind of a lot. It's pretty heavy. And like I don't know how much spoiler we're going to get into. We might just talk about some general stuff beforehand. So I don't want to get into too much more than that. I just thought the very first episode of it, out of the 3 that has come out, was the most intriguing out of any first episode. Way more than the WandaVision. I didn't even like the first episode of WandaVision. I had to get through it. The first episode of Falcon Winter Soldier was fun. It was action-packed. I liked it. I liked those 2 characters. But none of the characters so far, not Wanda, not Vision, not Falcon, not Winter Soldier, none of them are of the quality of a Tom Hiddleston Loki. Like, he's easily the biggest player out of all of them. And that's just what I feel about him and his, magnetism as far as the MCU is concerned. He was one of the MCU's greatest bad guys. He had the whole turnaround that he became kind of a good guy at the end of it in the Infinity Saga. So, yeah, intrigued would be my most as far as the first episode.
I did not like the first episode. And the reason I didn't like the first episode was because of how it treated Loki. It just made him such a joke in his own show, which is something I heard a lot. Just people talking about it, YouTube videos about it when it first came out. Just, this is Loki fresh off New York.
Yes.
The events of the first Avenger. Like, it just seems like they took him really lightly. I mean, the way he just kind of like lands someplace he doesn't expect to be or doesn't know exactly where he's going to go, sees some people and immediately starts being Loki. Like, that seems like him.
Mm-hmm.
But immediately, like, I don't. Okay, so the TVA people are essentially humans or human-like.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are over, I mean, they show multiple locations, and some of them are definitely not Earth, so it's not humans like we know them. But that woman that just like smacks him with the butt of her gun or with the hilt of that weapon she has, or whatever she
it's like a stun baton. Only
Yeah,
it disintegrates you if they touch you with it.
It's the melt stick from Ragnarok.
Yes. Only I don't think there's a smell. It's not it smells. Oh, it's not. I don't think it's that level. But yes, it is absolutely the melt stick. Thor Ragnarok. I hadn't thought of that. That's fantastic.
But she hits him with it, and it like, and then she slows him down and all that. It's like we have control over time. Great. That's a fine visual way to explain that. But the fact that she's able to catch him off guard in the first place is strange. I mean, we saw Hawkeye shoot an arrow at him from like way far away, and he's not even looking towards it, and he catches it.
Yep. Now, Hawkeye, great shot. Don't get me wrong. Like any human that would have hit him in the face. But it's Loki, and he just catches it and looks over like, really?
Yeah. So it just seemed really odd that a human is able to take advantage of like this momentary confusion that he has. Because it seemed, I mean, I guess that's how it's supposed to be explained, a momentary confusion, but he has his bearings pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
He jumps up, he's like, hey, I'm Loki of blah, 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 and I'm burdened with glorious purpose and all the stuff that he usually does. And then these people show up and just like kick the shit out of him. Then he's being brought through this area. Now, when he's in the TVA, I can understand his powers being nullified.
Right.
Like you are now reliant on your natural, like not natural abilities, like your natural abilities. It's all equal now. It's just your skill. It's whatever you can just do with your body.
Wits, how smart you are, and being able to think your way out of a problem.
Yeah.
Which Loki's not dumb.
No, they treated him like he kind of was. He was very much like, what's going on? I don't understand anything. And then he meets Mobius, and Mobius is kind of like, Mobius is playing him, and he's kissing up to the woman who's in charge of everything, the lady who he's like, it always seems like I'm looking up to you. It feels right. Was
that Owen Wilson's character's name, Mobius?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't actually even realize that.
And it just bothered me. I just didn't like the way they treated him. It's like, how are you going to take a hero? Because I'm assuming he's going to be a hero in this show. He's kind of seeming to turn that way.
Mm-hmm.
And treat him so carelessly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get that they kind of do that, but they do that a little bit with him with like Thor in the context of people at his level.
Yeah.
Somebody normal like me or you walks up to him and tries to hit him. That's it. We're done.
Right. And I agree with that. I felt that as well. Like they just, if they could have done something more clever to use, or just without any sort of, I hit you or I do something to just stun you for a second, then I hit you with this time power thing. I get the time powers, that we are in charge of time, and that can put them above board as far as being able to handle a character with the abilities of Loki. But when it was Thor, he, like, in a just straight up fight, when Thor wanted to put Loki down, he could, but we saw so many instances of Loki getting over on Thor and just tricking him, because god of trickery. That's like what he does. Up until, come later on, Thor Ragnarok, that he started to finally see through some of those elements, kind of a thing. But I felt the same way. Like this, I know she's the head of the security there, but to get over on a character who is that powerful, like, she's not powerful. She just has some gadgets. And she's not Batman. Like, not to mention those sticks, the melt sticks that they have. I think that is maybe that's true to the comic book. I don't know. I don't know anything about this comic book storyline. I'm sure it is a comic book storyline in Marvel, but that, as far as I'm concerned, and I thought about this today when I was thinking about, well, we're going to talk about this. What do I want to talk about? That's terrible, because the types of people that they're going to go after, like when you're talking bad guys, as far as villains in the Marvel universe, do you know how many could utterly annihilate you from a distance? Like, you have to be close to somebody to touch them with that stick. And so many could just, nope, I'm not letting you get close to me. Like, do you think Magneto's going to get caught by the TVA? No, I don't think so. Like, he's a way too powerful a character for that to happen. Like, nobody's getting close to some of these guys. And so that as their main means of, we're going to stop you with this stick that I have to touch you with. I mean, touching people with a weapon, like killing somebody with a sword, there's a reason that's antiquated. There's a reason we don't fight wars like that anymore. And this is how the TVA operates. The most powerful, the beings who control time in the universe, that's what they use. That seemed a little meh, in my opinion.
I agree. It's a strange choice for a primary weapon. I mean, a lot of it makes sense because of what they have to do in the show. And I don't know about the comics either. I know the TVA exists in the comics. They're from like sometime in the 80s is when they first appeared. I don't know anything about them. I was a DC kid. I really didn't read a lot of Marvel. I do think that all the stuff that's happening with the timelines and how they're going to diverge is going to lead into the Multiverse of Madness thing, the Doctor Strange movie that's supposed to come out. I think that's the first like clear thread I see that's going to connect one of these to a movie. I think that's what's going to happen. But
well, that was supposed to happen in WandaVision. Doctor Strange was supposed to make an appearance in that show, but they felt like he would show up, Wanda herself. And I mean, that's...
Yeah, he would have, because he would have figured out the runes thing right away because he studied this stuff. She just has the natural ability. I think it's probably good that they kept him out of it, but they could have still had something if they were supposed to have something to do with each other. It would have been good to connect those two.
I did. I felt from the very beginning, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a lead-in to Multiverse of Madness. And by the end of WandaVision, I didn't feel that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she may be a big part of that, but I'm really not sure how they're going to segue one into the other.
Yeah. And then Vision in that show, just being like, oh, I'm Megan. Bye. And he takes off, and that's it. He doesn't like help with the rest of the fight or anything. He just leaves. Little strange.
I mean, it is, but I kind of feel like that's a Vision move. I don't necessarily feel like that's out of character for him.
Maybe. So, back to Loki. I do like that at the end of that episode, I think it was the end of the first episode, he sees that tape of himself, like his life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's watching more of it after Mobius is gone, and after he got the drop on the woman who hit him the first time, like got that collar off, stuck it on her. He'd kind of like pop in and out of different places, and he kept like rewinding her and stuff like that.
Which was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. And it was just showing Loki being Loki. Like, and it makes me think that maybe what they're trying to get at is like Loki's just going to go along with stuff and play like he doesn't quite understand until he kind of gets his bearings, like really understands what's happening. Because that does seem to be what it was. He like had to figure out how to use their stuff against them.
I mean, that's a basic right there. That's a basic like art of war principle. Know your enemy. Like, just straight up. I mean, I can't fight my enemy if I don't know my enemy. I have to know them in order to understand them to be able to effectively combat them.
But the thing that made me want to talk about this was Lady Loki. Or Sylvie?
Sylvia?
Something like that. Yeah. I think it's Sylvie. It's real close to Sylvia, but it's not quite a normal name.
Yeah.
But I was worried that it was going to be like what you had talked about before. You know, not every show or movie does this, but there are quite a few where the woman version of whatever the male character is just way better. I don't know if it's funny or what exactly. I don't know. I don't exactly understand the motivations behind it, but it kind of, I was just worried that they were going to have this Loki get schooled in being Loki from another Loki. You know what I mean? And what they did was what I hoped they were going to do, which is show two Lokis that are drastically different. Everything, gender, upbringing, skill set, magic types, all that stuff. Super different. You know, Loki's type of magic was totally different from hers. She could enchant people. He can materialize things and kind of teleport objects and make things disappear and change his appearance. And she's a much more skilled fighter, just basic level hand-to-hand stuff. Whereas he keeps up by using his magic And I say magic like that because, like you said, they said they weren't gods initially. Like Loki even says in the first Avengers, like, oh, they think we're gods. And then for the rest of it, he keeps calling himself a god for the rest of the MCU movies. And Thor tells people, like, it's not magic. Where I come from, science and magic are the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now that it's just straight up magic. Like, I assumed before their stuff was supposed to be super advanced technology that appears to be magic, but it's apparently actually just magic now. I don't have a problem with that, but
I like it. I like Thor's explanation in the first Thor movie a little bit better. It's a bit of like Star-Lord said, a bit of both. Like, it's some of it, yeah, we're more advanced than you are by far, but some of it, what your science can't explain, we call magic. That kind of thing.
Okay.
I mean, it's comic book crap. Like, I don't want to think that hard about it.
Yeah, it just seemed like they're leaning into some of the stuff that they tried initially to distance themselves from. They tried to give us a more like real life Thor and Loki. Like, now they're just aliens. They're different. They're stronger. They live longer. Whatever. But I really, really like the way they handled having those two together, and that they didn't just make. And truthfully, it wouldn't have been any different if it was another male Loki. I like the female Loki, so it even contrasts more. You don't have to like cast somebody who looks like a great value brand Tom Hiddleston. You just choose somebody else who looks completely different and iconic on their own.
So like the great value brand Ezra Miller from American Animals, yes, who looked like he was just if Ezra Miller just smoked pot all day long. that's what you have with this guy.
Yeah.
So not that for Loki. All right, that's cool. I dig that.
But yeah, I was worried that whatever the new Loki would be just like so much better, and it wouldn't be an interesting story because it's just watching our Loki get his ass kicked all the time. And it's the same kind of thing that was upsetting people when they saw the Infinity Stones in desks. Saying like, oh, these are so common, we use them for paperweights. Infinity Stones, like saying, hey, the thing that was the huge threat in this last movie, like, it's nothing.
Yeah, that was okay. When I said before that I wanted to get into spoilers, it's
not really a
spoilery.
It's just really a gag. Not. It's just a gag.
It was something that you and I talked about that we hated. Like, I hated that. The fact that all 20 some odd movies that built up to Thanos and everything that happened, they're like, meh, that's all crap. Like, what? How do you in a TV show just make everything else that just happened, that the past 10, 15 years of our lives, and watching these characters grow and build into Tony Stark, I'm Iron Man, boom, the whole thing. By doing that whole thing meant nothing. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that moment in that show. I understood it. I got why they did it. But considering from what you told me, there's only 3 episodes left. That's why we're doing this one now, because it's halfway in between. They better really come with it for these last 3 episodes. Because the first one was really intriguing. But the second 2, I don't know, man. I don't know if they really... I like the idea of some of the stuff they put out in this, and this is definitely going to get into some spoiler territory. So the Loki that they need, our Loki, the Loki we know, that Owen Wilson's character Mobius collects and says, hey, we can use you. Why? Because we're trying to catch this person. Who are we trying to catch? We're trying to catch you, a different version of you. I like how that Loki is using the TVA's own technology against them to cause something to happen. We don't honestly know what it is yet, because all that went really quick when she went back to the TVA because she wanted to get to the Timekeepers, but then her and Loki as a little standoff, and then they got shunted into this whole different, the 3rd episode, they're on a whole different planet. And I have a theory about that, but I did enjoy that. The fact that she's ambushing these TVA agents and taking this very powerful instrument that they use to reset the timeline. Like, whatever's in that little vial, the time resetter thing that they use, that's some very powerful technology that could be hard. Like, and that's That's what bad guys do. They take something that good guys have created and turn it against them. That's a very classic bad guy thing to do. And I like that. So I was interested after the second episode when I saw kind of how that ended. I'm like, oh, all right, that's interesting. And all these warnings and the things are going off at the TVA. And it was, I was curious to see where that went. But based on what happens in the third episode, like you don't know anything about that. Like everything, her plan goes off, and then beginning of the third episode, she's trying to get to the timekeepers because that's her goal. Why? We don't know. We don't know that yet, but she wants to get there. Loki wants to get there as well. They both, their goal is to get to the timekeepers, and they've kind of explained that for Loki, it's because he wants to like overthrow everything. Because especially Loki coming right after New York City, that's where his mind is at.
He's in conquering mode, yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if that's actually true. I think that's kind of a red herring as far as what they maybe want us to believe that he wants to do. But we'll see where it goes. We'll see what they do with it. But everything gets halts because when they are interacting in that era at the TVA, Loki and alternate Loki, Sylvie, because she doesn't want to be called Loki, she doesn't like that. Everything, it like comes to a screeching halt, and the whole third episode is them trying to escape a death planet. And I thought that was, the third episode felt like more character filler than it did progressing anything as far as the storyline that had been set up for the first two episodes.
See, I liked the second two episodes way better than the first. I was very worried because of the first. I wasn't upset, but I was concerned that they were going to treat what had formerly been a really great villain as kind of a joke. And then I saw like, no, he can still take over the place if he wants to. He just doesn't always want to. And then the second one, he's getting down to business. He's working with Mobius. He's figuring things out. I love where they go to Pompeii. And he's like jumping up on that cart and screaming and doing all this stuff. He's like, look, everything's fine. Like, you know, because we're all going to die.
That was a good scene. You're not wrong. That was a good scene.
And then the third episode, like, I like the reveal of Lady Loki. I like that it wasn't a stunt. I guess I've been a little bit worried about Marvel since they did the whole, like, that moment in Endgame where it shows all the female heroes together. That was a little bit like, ugh. It just felt unnatural. It was a little, like, cringy. It's like, you're pandering. Like, you're exclusively doing this to try to sell to young girls. That's all. Like, I don't buy that you believe in any kind of, like, equality or whatever. Like, I think you just want to sell to young girls. Maybe I'm just cynical. I don't know. And I was worried it was kind of going to be one of those things. And yet, I was worried it was going to be a little bit like Captain Marvel. I think because Captain Marvel was the first, like, major female-led MCU film, they were afraid to show any flaws or weaknesses with her, which is what made that movie so boring.
Yep.
It was well made, but it was really boring. Everybody's telling her don't be emotional, but she's never emotional. They're telling her, you know, just all this stuff that doesn't exactly match what we're seeing with her. She's very competent all the time. She's really good at her job all the time. The stuff that she's been through wasn't, I'm not saying it wasn't bad, but it, like, the stuff that's in her past that's motivating her isn't the normal stuff. It's like Karate Kid level, like I've been bullied and stuff like that.
Yes.
Which is fine. It's a relatable thing. But it's just the fact that she never struggles with any of that. Like, she doesn't have to struggle to come to terms with who she really was, you know, on Earth, and who she is now, and like what she's going to do with her life. Like, it's never a problem. And it's just not interesting to watch somebody who just has everything figured out all the time and just moves forward and does everything perfectly with no effort as far as we can tell. And so I was a little bit worried with this Lady Loki character, but I love her. She's so good. I really like her opposite Tom Hiddleston. I like the way they interact. I like that she's a little bit more serious. Well, a lot more serious. I like that they don't get along. I like that he's just a smartass, like he always is. It's fantastic. It's part of the reason
he got drunk in the third episode.
I do. I knew it was what was going to happen too when they're sitting in that booth, and he's like, she's like, well, we can't sleep because we don't trust each other. He's like, well, you relax in your way and I'll relax in mine.
Yep.
And she's like, what are you doing? Uniform. And he's like, ah, it's fine.
Nah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I thought it was a great. I really liked it. I know a lot of people didn't like the episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier where they're fixing the boat. I love that episode. I
Me
love the
too.
character development with them.
Absolutely. Like, that shows character growth right there. It shows these two characters who at one point just kind of needed to work together, actually growing a friendship. And that's how that happens. Like, you don't become friends with somebody just because you work with them.
Mm-hmm.
You become friends with somebody because you actually take the time to care about what they care about and listen to them and try to understand them and spend real time with them that isn't just, all right, well, we're going to go do this superhero kick-ass stuff. That's not, I mean, that might make you into a team, but that doesn't make you friends.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just sum up. We probably shouldn't go any further. Anything more would be kind of spoilery. There's some, I don't know, there's some powers and abilities that are really cool. Some of the fight scenes are really good. Some of the others aren't so great. Like on the planet when they're trying to get to the Ark, it's not great.
Yeah,
it's okay. Like some of the effects are pretty cool. On the planet when he's like, I got it, and he like goes to like chest bump that building that's falling.
Yeah, he catches it with his telekinesis.
Yeah. We've never seen him do anything like that before.
I have a theory about that.
But it's like, where did that come from?
Right? I have a theory about that. So if just finish up with whatever your stuff is, and I've got a theory about what I think is going on right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll just sum it up by saying I like most of it. I was worried about the first episode. I don't think they treated him very well as a villain. They didn't treat him like a threat. You know, and I get that it's supposed to be the TVA is used to handling people like him, and actually are used to handling him because it makes sense. Somebody like him is the one who would probably create the most splinter timelines, and they say that like we see a lot of you coming through,
right?
And I guess that's a thing that's always happening. There's no multiverse. It's just that in this continuous time stream, Loki's just popping out all over the place. But it's cool. They did a lot of good character development. Lady Loki, they did a really, really good job with her, I think, because it's one of those things where she's not just him, but better. She's not just like completely better than him at everything and teaching him stuff. And then, you know, just being the superior version, because he was very worried about there being, you know, well, is this Loki better than me? It's like, no, you're equal. Like every interaction you've had, you've been equal. It's just a little bit different, which I like a lot. If you want that to be a message, like you can be the female and be as good as the male, that's a great way to do it.
Yep.
Like you can each have your own different strengths. Like different kinds of people from different backgrounds, like these two, have different strengths and abilities, and it's great. And they play off each other really well. And I'm really interested to see where the rest of the show goes, but I can't theorize about it because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what you just said you didn't want to do. So my theory is the third episode, all of the third episode, and I think I've seen this in other something else. I know I can't place where I've seen it in what TV show or movie. Everything that happened in the third episode is because Sylvie is controlling Loki's mind. Like she got into the mind of the TVA agent and they were in the bar and she was trying to figure out where are the timekeepers at. She kept asking that question, where are the timekeepers? All of this is her projecting into Loki's mind so that she can get close to him, so that she can use him. That's why he's able to do what he's able to do with that building, which I was like, what the hell? You've never seen him do anything like that, ever. And I'm like, how is he able to stop a building falling now? Where'd that come from? That came from her controlling the situation. When the thing happens and the device that he has, that's the key thing that they need, and they can't use it anymore, that's all part of her plan. Everything that goes on is to make him feel superior, at least a little bit, to gain his trust, to open up, to learn what she needs to learn, to somehow use that as a jumping off point to use Loki. I think that's what's going on.
That's a
I don't
good
know.
theory. I
I don't know if
I really hope you're wrong. I
and to be
really hope you're
honest,
wrong.
I kind of hope I'm wrong too. But I kept thinking about it today, and I'm like, what? Why? And it's one of the things I've tried to ask myself as we do this. Why are characters doing what they're doing? Why are these things happening? And I feel like this is what's going on with her.
See, I get your point because I had the same thought. But the only thing she really needed from him was that tempad or whatever they called it, the little teleportation time travel device. And it broke. Like at first she was trying to figure out where it
Supposedly.
was, and then she left him alone about it.
Allegedly.
Well, she left him alone about it for a while, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, here it is." Whoop, and it was broken.
Yep.
And then she quit caring about it. Like there's no, if she was just looking for where it was, once he pulled it out, she would have known where he had it. I assume.
Maybe. I don't know. That was just a thought that I had. I feel like I've seen that in something else before, that everything you're seeing is just somebody controlling everything that's going on through some sort of mental power like that.
I think like
Kind of
every
like
show.
Wanda was controlling that whole town, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I am, just like you, I am intrigued to see where this goes next. How is this going to tie into the MCU? How is the multiverse of madness going to be a thing if the timekeepers are a thing? How do those two, coincide with one another? How do you have one and have the other? I don't understand that.
I don't think you will. I mean, we're finding out. You already said you were getting into spoilers, but we already found out that the TVA are the bad guys. So I think they're going to be gone in Multiverse of Madness.
Find it out?
Yeah. Well, we found out what Sylvie tells us, which is that the TVA agents are just variants that are being rounded up and told that they were created for this purpose. I mean, they're basically what Loki was doing to people when he was brainwashing them.
With the Tesseract.
Yeah. And who knows what they're using.
I don't know. I am interested to see where this goes. But they've only got 3 episodes left. And so that is not a lot of time to really flesh out everything based on what they've shown us so far.
Yeah, it would be a great start to a 10-episode season.
Right? Or, like a Game of Thrones kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't feel like there's enough time with 3 episodes left to do anything except leave us hanging in the last episode. I hope they don't do that. I hope there's some sort of closure. But I feel like the last episode is... How is it not going to go back to Loki being caught after the events of the first Avengers movie? We've already seen what happens. Like, we know that that's a thing. That Thor, they all catch him. Thor takes him back to Asgard. Like, where are they going from there? How is it going to diverge? How's that going to change everything that's already happened in the MCU to this point? I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's like Rick and Morty. Just don't think about it. I mean, I guess what it is that the divergent timeline that he came from was eliminated. So the main timeline is intact. He was taken back to Asgard in that timeline. This is just a Loki that exists outside of time. But it's another way for him to come back.
How does that work? Because he took the Tesseract and he left. So who is there going back to Asgard with them? Do they substitute a different Loki? Like, how does that even work?
Maybe this is the problem Multiverse is supposed to solve.
I will say, Multiverse of Madness is the only new MCU movie I'm looking forward to. That's it.
I don't even know what the other ones are.
Right? I know there's the Black Widow.
There's a Black Widow one. I want to see that one.
Right. And I want to see it, but it's of no consequence. The Black Widow movie should have come out when Captain Marvel came out.
Yeah.
When
it mattered.
Right. Before she died in the Infinity War saga, when it mattered. Yes. Now, I don't care. It's going to be fun to watch, but I don't really care. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I don't really care. The Eternals or any of this other, I just don't care. Shang-Chi, which I'm big into martial arts stuff. That's what I like. And so I'm at least intrigued by this movie, and I feel like it's going to give me the Mandarin that I was hoping for when Iron Man 3, but I feel like if they don't do that, I'm be really, really mad. Like I got burned bad enough in Iron Man 3, and he, don't get me wrong, Ben Kingsley did a fantastic job doing what they asked him to do. I can watch that movie now already knowing what it is, and I can be okay with it, and I can really enjoy his character in it. But I wanted to see the Mandarin because he is a major Marvel bad guy. Like, he is a top tier player, and they they just, oh man, I didn't like how that went. So if this new one coming out actually deals with the Mandarin in a respectful and reasonable way, showing you this bad guy the way he should be shown. We need good bad guys. That's what a lot of these superhero movies are missing, are really good bad guys.
Yeah,
Like,
the Marvel problem with villains has always been setting up new heroes, because you have to somehow give a backstory for a hero and a villain. So it makes a lot of sense for them to come from the same place. Iron Man and Warmonger, same technology.
yeah.
You know, same thing with Ant-Man and his villain.
Mm-hmm.
But to handle the villains well is kind of difficult. To make them like Thanos, they did really, really well with in Infinity War and the little bits that you see of him before that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Endgame, they kind of just turned him into a Scooby-Doo villain, where it's just like all out, you know, all right, well, I'm coming for you then. Like, no strategy to it anymore. No, like, complicated villain, you know, nothing. Just one last showdown. It was just a chance to fight Thanos again and win.
Right. But I didn't hate that.
I didn't hate it either, but it's like you need both.
It wasn't complex.
No.
But the reason it worked is because how everything got built up because of the first however many movies he appeared in before Infinity War. The teasing of him, or the little bit that he was in what movie? I can see it. Guardians of the Galaxy? Because it had Nebula in it.
Yep.
And that by doing that, by having somebody who, you know, there's this one who's above it. It's like what the Snyder cut of Batman and Superman tried to do. Or the Justice League. I'm sorry. Snyder cut of Justice League. Trying to really throw Apocalypse in there. Because he's the bigger threat than anything that has come before him.
That's a great point, and that's a good way of putting it too. It's not just the dude. It's not there's just Darkseid behind it. There's a whole other world out there.
Right.
There's Apocalypse with its all, you know, it shows Granny Goodness and Darkseid and armies of people, and they're just like waiting for their chance. It's a great glimpse into like there's something way bigger going on here. And Thanos was a great way of hinting at that a little bit. Like there's something else. There's the dude. This dude floating on this rock chair for like 8 years.
Voiced by Brolin. Love that guy. He's great.
I don't know. I might have just like outgrown it a little bit.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like we talked to, or I don't know if we've talked about it, but I remember watching The Critical Drinker, the one that we really liked to, one of the ones we really like to watch on YouTube. And he talked about just being over. Like the Marvel, everything, they really completed that whole arc. Everything that they started, they ended it. And sure, they're going to keep, because it's Hollywood, they're going to keep putting stuff out because people are invested and comic book movies make money now. And so they're going to keep doing it. It would have been better for them to shut it down and say, that's it. We're done. And now we're going to go on to something else.
Yeah.
It just be over.
Yeah. We told the stories we wanted to tell.
Yes.
And now we're done. And now we're going to give you standalone ones or whatever else we want to do, or start a new universe, like different cast, you know, same. We're going to do the Ultimates now. Like basically we're going to recast everybody. Powers are going to be a little bit different. Suits are going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a whole new set of stories.
As long as you don't give us any more origin stories. Like if they come out with another Spider-Man movie that's an origin story, or a Batman movie that's an origin story, I am checking out. I am sorry. I know those origin stories. I do not need to see Uncle Ben die again. I do not need to see Batman's parents die again. You can GTFO with any of that. I'm done with it. Like people know those. Now, if you need to origin, like the Eternals, I know that's coming out. How the Eternals is a series of people. It's I don't know how many exactly, but it's a lot of them. 5, 6, 7, 8 characters. Like the MCU had an Iron Man, a couple of Iron Mans, and Captain America's, a Thor movie. They had to do this stuff to be able to bring these characters together. They had Black Widow show up. They had Hawkeye show up and some of these other things to be able to coalesce into the Avengers movie before just saying, hey, they didn't just say, hey, here's an Avengers movie. And that's what I think the Eternals is doing. All right, here's all these characters. And just curious if the Eternals, based on the previews I've seen, have been on Earth this whole time.
Yeah. I've been kind of wondering
what threat is going to be
big enough
presented in that movie that Thanos wasn't a big enough threat that they can be like, you know what? I'm going to get out of my armchair and come help. Like they weren't present for any of the, not Loki, not Ultron destroying the world, not any of the things that happened so far. What threat's going to be big enough that we need all of them to come together to stop that's bigger than anything that the Avengers had to face themselves?
I think maybe it's going to be a thing where they realize they've lost track of what's going on and the Thanos thing got by them and they just need to be an active part. I don't know. What
I like that theory. That's if they play that right, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But the question is, like, I don't plan on going to the theater to see any of these movies. I was in the theater to see so many of the other ones. Now that theaters are starting to be back open, like I said, I just got to go see with my girlfriend. We got to go see Cruella. It was nice to go sit in the theater again and have some popcorn and watch a movie on the big screen. I miss that. I have no plans to see, except for Doctor Strange, who probably because of Benedict Cumberbatch, come hither, whatever. Because of him, he was very charismatic in the first one. I like him. I like how he played the character, and so I'm really interested to see his next movie. But otherwise, I don't care about any of it.
I was super hungover when I went to the theater to see the first Doctor Strange, so I'd like to see one without like wanting to get sick.
Fair.
Like I was so
that was
hungover.
Not a good movie to want to get sick on.
Oh my gosh. No, it was so bad.
Terrible.
I drank so much Powerade before I went, and I was still like, yeah, this is, and they started doing all the weird Inception stuff, things folding in on each other.
Oh my gosh, that's a terrible movie for that.
I'll tell you what like. Let's end this, but I want to throw out what a thought I just had.
Okay.
I really want to see Steel. You remember was it Shaq that played him back?
Yes.
I really want to see. What was his name? John Henry Irons.
Yes,
that's the character name. I want to see. We're talking about like missed opportunities and ways that they could have handled stuff better.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved it if, like in the comics, John Henry Irons was an engineer, basically a Tony Stark, who created this power suit to replace Superman after he died fighting Doomsday. I would have loved it if that's what the DC animated or what the DC cinematic universe had done, was introduce another hero the way he was supposed to be introduced, and not have it be at the end of Bats v Soups, he dies, but we know he's going to come back, and then the next movie he's back. Like, give us a little bit of time without him. Let them struggle without him and still get by, but ultimately bring him back eventually.
I remember that comic storyline. It was one of the few DC things that I read. Man, that would have been great.
Right?
Like, you had some really good, like, could you imagine if you did that and you had Michael Clark Duncan play him?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That would have worked well. Unfortunately, he can't do that anymore. It's one of the men in Hollywood who, like, Rip hurts my heart. Like, I miss that guy. He was great in pretty much everything I saw him in.
Yep.
But you're right. That's a missed opportunity for them. Before there was any DCEU, MCU, any of that. It was before any of that.
They should have just poached Don Cheadle to do it. Just to offer him more money. And he would have been like, you guys are going to screw that. They probably did. They probably did approach him. And he's like, you're just going to screw it up. I'm not leaving the MCU to do this for one movie. It's not worth it.
Well, yeah, because especially since he replaced Terrence Howard to be
War Machine.
Iron Patriot. That's what Iron
Well,
Patriot.
War Machine and then Iron Patriot. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I got. We talked way longer than I expected to about this, but overall, I like the series. Unsure start. I hope you're wrong about your theory, but I like it. It's good, and I think it handles things pretty well, pretty balanced. It's not. There's no like messaging or whatever that's bothering me. It's good, and they're avoiding a lot of the mistakes that they made with Captain Marvel.
I agree with that. You had mentioned something to me, and I know I'm dragging this out even more. I'm sorry about some of the YouTubers that we have watched who talked about because of something that was so minor that you had to pause it to see it listed on a piece of paperwork in the show, that it's calling it woke and it's this and it's over the top. I mean, I bought a shirt that says awake but not woke because that's how I feel about that culture. I didn't feel that in this show. I didn't feel that a female Loki was crapping all over a male Loki. It wasn't. I agree with what you said about it. Very complimentary characters. I am very interested to see where they go with this. Whether my theory is correct or not correct. I kind of hope I'm wrong and can be surprised at where this goes. But they've only got 3 more episodes. So I'm skeptical that they can do it the amount of justice that is required for as high a stakes as they have put in this show.
Well, here's what I wonder. Is Tom Hiddleston wanting out? And this is going to be their way of having him have another little hero arc where he sacrifices himself in some final thing to save Sylvie, and then she becomes the new Loki in the main timeline. Like, she pops in, she's like, what's up? I'm Loki, but not exactly your Loki. And whatever. Like, I knew him. I know stuff about him. I know what's up.
I mean,
it would be a really slick way of swapping in another character, making them drastically different, and not having it be super weird. As long as you saw the show.
Okay. I buy that. I just buy that as long as he doesn't make any more movies like High Rise. Like, if he's going to quit Loki, he better pick something good.
Him running around in a suit or a shirt and tie made me think of High Rise the whole time. That's all I could think of, like the 60s vibe, him running around in a white shirt and tie. High Rise.
I get that.
All right, well, that's all I've got.
All right, Halligan, it looks like we have talked about this probably much longer than we should have.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we have talked longer than one episode actually is. So that's fine. That's what we do. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, if you think we are, batshit crazy, hit us up. Where can they hit us up, Ryan?
They can email us at moviehowl@gmail.com. They can find us on Twitter @moviehowl, and they can find me on Twitter @manpanda.
All right. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I've been Joe.
I'm at least a variant Ryan.
Variant Ryan. And it looks like we are out. Thanks again.